Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and do all the things that help the YouTube algorithm, blah, 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 blah. Let's just get right into this because, well, I kind of had to do this video because this build lives on in this season and is just as strong as it was last season. And when I started the PvE, I wasn't necessarily planning on doing it, but when it threw out two of the key components for it in the NPC round, yeah, I had to give it a try and see if it was doing the same thing it did last season. Yeah, we're doing Animaniacs. This one's going to start off with hero augments that are 2-3 level. Now, what always makes this challenging is you never know for sure what you're going to get. They threw a Draven in there, which made no sense. Vayne could work, but I generally don't use Vayne in the Animaniacs build. So we're going to roll. None of this works because it doesn't work into Animaniacs build. And now you start to get nervous. Are you going to get anything? I see a Gnar one, which will make them take more damage and then increase when they get hit with Gnar's ult. I am then rewarded out of that with a Jinx. So I have the core elements of the Animaniacs build at this point. The real question is, do I want to start with Gnar, who's got the hero augment, or start with Jinx so I can start building fame? I decide to start with Gnar and itemize him up with a Sunfire cape so we can see what he's capable of. And as I mentioned in my roundup video, I actually find this making the Animaniacs build a little bit stronger because where it used to fall down a little was in the front line, but Gnar is a good front liner. We 2-starred the Jinx, so we brought her in for Riven for the moment and also added the Rage Blade on as one of the 3 items. Normally, Rage Blade, Static Shiv, Spear of Sojin, if you can get them, are great on Jinx. You can see again, Gnar is just holding up really well in that front line. And now that we're up at 4, we can bring in another Anima Squad so we can start earning fame from our kills. That's going to be valuable as they're going to gain more health. But you can see this team is just very strong at this point. Of course, it helped that I got 2 Gnars early on and that the hero augment was for him, so it's able to carry us. Time for an item choice, and I could go sword or tear at this point because we want to make a Static Shiv and Spear of Sojin, so either one of those would have worked, but I chose to go tear because I'd like to get the Static Shiv sooner. For anyone new to this build, the reason I put the Static Shiv on Jinx is because I want to shred their magic resistance, because once you bring in Misfortune, she's going to do a wave clearing ult that's all magic damage, so having their magic resistance lower is going to help a ton. It's time for our next augment, and it is prismatic level, and I'm left with an interesting choice. I usually do not get Prankster crown because there are 3 Pranksters in the game. You don't need the Prankster crown in order to get up to 3. But if you have 4 Pranksters, they're going to do the same thing that the Pranksters do. And in this case, that will be jump aside, leave a target dummy behind. The target dummy will then stun the person who is hitting it. So it gives a lot of CC, so I wanted to try it. It's not something I did last season with this build whenever I got the opportunity, but I wanted to see how it would work to go to 4 Pranksters. It also gives me the opportunity to potentially go in a different direction if I decide not to get or cannot get an Ekko when necessary. But as you can see right now, it's doing swimmingly. It's item choice time, and it's an easy choice. I want the BF sword for the Spear of Sojin, but I'm not necessarily going to put it on Jinx. I want the Static Shiv on Jinx for the reasons I explained before, but right now I'm holding a Vex just for Misfortune, so I can go ahead and put 2 Misfortune items on Vex. We'll go ahead and grab our Alistair. That's going to be important for the build as that will give us Mascot along with Nasus, but for the moment we keep Vex in because Vex is also a Mascot, but we'll be casting powerful spells until the backline, until we get Misfortune. And if you can, just keep an eye on how powerful the Pranksters are in terms of creating CC. Every time they hit one of those target dummies, or should I say when they destroy them, it stops them and allows us to keep attacking. It makes this team very strong. And at this point, it's just rinse, repeat. Jinx is softening them up, and Vex is wiping them out. Ultimately, that job will go to Miss Fortune, but for now, Vex is doing a pretty decent job of it. Our Anima Squad is gaining fame, and thus gaining health along the way. We're into stage 7, found our Miss Fortune, so it's time to complete the Anima Squad. Miss Fortune comes in. We're going to go ahead and ultimately take out the Vex, move the items over to Miss Fortune. Normally, we wouldn't have the 3 Pranksters yet, so we would still be looking for Ekko, and then just one more thing to shore up the front line. But right now, we're actually complete here with the 5 Anima Squad and 3 Pranksters. It's time for our final augment, and hard to resist Thrill of the Hunt. It just helps so much, even though the portable forge may have given us something amazing. I was perfectly fine with Thrill of the Hunt. We can go ahead, grab the sparring glove to make the jeweled gauntlet for Miss Fortune. Now her attacks can critically strike. This team is running a somewhat similar concept in that they're doing the Gadgeteam Pranksters and then attempting to use Gnar as their main carry. This is a decent build. I've seen it work. It's just not quite as strong against the Animaniacs because it doesn't have the ace that Miss Fortune is. And as you can see, even against a gold Lulu, she's able to hold on and win. We have our completed team on the bench. I picked up an Ekko and I happen to get a 2-star Aatrox, so that's going to go into our front line. But if you need to fight against Animaniacs, this team is a good example. Spread people out so Miss Fortune cannot wipe them. That's how you can beat this team. I managed to 3-star the Riven between rounds, and so it's now time to pick out some items. I decided to go with the Ionic Spark just to tank her up a little bit more. She has the Prankster, and she has a lot of power, so adding the Ionic Spark, which will do some damage to people when they get near her, is key. Here, time to go a little crazy. Nothing really fits anything perfectly, so I decided to go ahead and grab the Rabadon's Death Cap, put it on Riven so that her shield will be bigger. Then I'm going to bring her back because the name of the game is Protect Miss Fortune. So we want as many target dummies appearing around her as possible so she doesn't get killed. Miss Fortune is ultimately the key to victories in this, and so you want Riven and Jinx to be taking on any aggro that gets close. Remember, when they get low, they're going to drop a target dummy and run away, and that target dummy will stun the target. So you got a really good thing with keeping Miss Fortune safe. Now, normally I would keep Nasus in to keep the front line strong, but with a 3-star Riven and a 2-star Aatrox up there, I wanted to try something. This is the PBE, so it's a place to try stuff out, and I wanted to see if bringing in the Vayne would help or hurt. It didn't really seem to make a difference. The team is just really strong as is. And normally I'd say that brings us into the top 4, but it actually brought us straight into the top 2 as everything shook out just perfect and 5 went down to 2. And we get 2 more items to choose from here. Normally I'd love to take the Ace Emblem, but it's not going to help. I've decided to go ahead and keep Vayne in the match because that worked really well. I probably, in all reality, should have taken out Sylas instead of Nasus because I lost the mascot and I could have kept it. Grab the blue buff for Vayne just because she'll be attacking faster. I can grab another Ionic Spark just to go ahead and throw on Ekko, who's going to get into their backline. But we now have 4 Pranksters, the 5 Anima Squad, 2 Aegis, thanks to Ekko and Alistair being in the game. Like I said, the only mistake, I probably should have dumped Sylas for and kept Nasus. But really, this build, it's just a little nonsensical. That's a really strong team we're up against. It isn't going to matter because Miss Fortune is going to do what Miss Fortune does and wipe the team. This is the one who took us out before. They made it to the end, and it's GG for everyone. Yeah, Animaniacs, use it. Use it. It's gonna work for you. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.